right. Hello and good morning, everyone. Buenos dias a todos. My name is Yanira Gonzalez, Partnership Engagement Manager with the Hispanic Alliance for Career Enhancement. Today, we are excited to have Maria Ball, Account Executive and Latinoforce Global Communications Chair from Salesforce, joining us as we end Hispanic Heritage Month with a bang. Now, before we start today's conversation, HACE has two key events which we would like to promote. First, we will be conducting our government recruitment series today from 11:30 to 1 p.m. Central Time. We will be joined by Accenture Federal, CTA, and Cook County, Illinois. So if you're a job seeker looking for a role in the government space, please be sure to attend. Second, we will be hosting our final and national executive leadership tour tomorrow from the same time, 11:30 to 1 p.m. Central. Our participating partners are Salesforce, Verizon, Under Armour, and Discover. So if you're an ERG, BRG leader or a DEI leader, please join us as we center our conversation on intentionality, transparency, and accountability in the workplace and in leadership. To learn more, please visit the links shared in the chat. And let's jump straight into today's conversation. So first of all, good morning, Maria. And of course, thank you so much for joining us this morning. As you know, this live stream is aptly named Cafecito con HACE. So the first thing that I'd like to ask you is, how do you like your cafecito, cafe, coffee prepared? Or if you're like me and you're not really a coffee drinker, what is your morning beverage of choice? Me personally, I'm drinking some hot chocolate right now. So how about you?
I love it. Thank you for the warm introduction. I would say if it's a really good cup of coffee, I like it just plain with nothing in it. But if it's not the best, you definitely have to put some cream in there to cover up the grossness.
Okay, interesting. That's pretty daring of you, I'd say. I don't think in the rare times that I do drink coffee, it has to be loaded with creamer and sugar and all of that. Otherwise, it's just like unbearable for me. But kudos to you. You're stronger than I.
Thank you.
Now, Maria, I'm sure that we have some live streamers, and just want to say I see a lot of good mornings and hellos coming in through the chat. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us. Maria, I'm sure that we have some live streamers who this is their first time seeing you, meeting you, interacting with you. So can you tell us about your cultural and professional background so we can get to know you a little better?
Yeah, happy to. Thank you. So I'm an account executive at Salesforce. So I sell all of the Salesforce products. We're a software company based out of San Francisco. And my background previous to coming to Salesforce has always been sales. But my heritage and where my family's come from, my dad's family is from a really small fishing town in the northwestern part of Spain, and I cannot remember the name of it right now. But it's pretty incredible the journey that my ancestors had when they came to the United States. My last name was actually changed when they went through Ellis Island. So my maiden name is Luzon, and my family settled in the Baltimore and Philadelphia area. So it's been incredible to go back to my family roots and really remember and honor them throughout my involvement with Latinoforce.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it's so important for us to stay connected to our heritage, our lineage. I think it really rounds a person out. So I'm happy to hear that you're doing exactly that. And as I'm sure you know, this is the last week of Hispanic Heritage Month. So can you tell us a little bit about, how Salesforce has honored the month, and more specifically, what Latinoforce has done in celebration?
Yes. So Latinoforce, we are the employee resource group for all Salesforce employees. It's primarily Latinx and Hispanic identifying employees that are members, but we are open to allies as well. And throughout Hispanic Heritage Month, we've done over 35 events, both in person and virtual, across the globe. So we have about 22 or 23 chapters around the world. And we really empowered those chapters to plan programming for their local members. And it's been so neat to see whether it's paella classes or salsa classes, And then also even immersion, like learning how to speak Spanish. or doing a casual cafecito like this with someone maybe in Australia. It's been an incredible opportunity to bridge the gap in the tech world, and especially with our members, making people feel more welcome and included here at Salesforce. And then also broader as a company. So September is our champion month. And so that month, Salesforce as a company focuses on our efforts. And so it's been really neat to have our executives like Juan Perez, our CIO, give shout outs to the Latinx and Hispanic community, because he is an executive sponsor of Latinoforce. And so he does work to amplify our voices, even in the C-suite, which is great.
All right. Well, it sounds like you all were definitely staying busy. I mean, you said 35 events over the course of Hispanic Heritage Month. That's a lot. So kudos to you and your team for putting all of those things on. I mean, paella and salsa classes. I wish that, where was my invite? That's my only question. Where was my invite, Maria? No, but that's awesome. Happy to hear that. Now, obviously, with this being Hispanic Heritage Month, there's a lot more visibility for our community, which, you spoke on some of that. And many of us have used this time to have really important conversations around things like culture, identity, honoring Latinx voices, etc. But how can we make sure that Latinx voices are heard all year round and not just, during these cultural celebration months?
Yes. So I would say the biggest one is if you're able to work at a place like Salesforce, where your employer supports your efforts. So that's for your 9 to 5 or whatever your hours are, like you will feel supported day in and day out in the work you do and the work you're paid to do. But outside of that, join community organizations. Join HACE. Check out other organizations that there are throughout your community, because really the way that we will be stronger is when we lift each other up. And in doing that, another tip I have is if you find yourself in a spot where maybe you're in a dream job that you always wish that you had, and you want to make sure others have that opportunity, obviously share that information out, but hold the door open for the person behind you. So sponsorship is so important right now. There is a big difference between mentorship and sponsorship. And I think that we need to have more sponsors in order to get our voices amplified to the next level. So if you're able to be a sponsor to someone, please do that.
Yeah, definitely agree. And first of all, thank you for the plug. Obviously, HACE is a great resource for anybody who's diversity minded and looking to amplify Latinx voices in the workplace. So we have a ton of offerings ranging from, we have many offerings for job seekers, as I mentioned earlier. If you're looking for professional development opportunities, we have plenty of those as well. So thanks again for the plug. If you want to learn more, check us out, aceonline.org. And additionally, I think it's really important that we recognize the importance of allyship, right? The only way that we as members of marginalized communities can progress in this world is by supporting and elevating each other and giving each other the platform to have our voices heard. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind, not only during the remainder of Hispanic Heritage Month, but for the rest of the year. And additionally, if you're in that position where you can offer advice to someone else or lend a helping hand to bring someone else to where you're at. You talked a little bit about the importance of sponsorship over mentorship. So if that's the kind of support that you can provide in your space, whatever your space looks like, definitely do that. Again, not just for the remainder of Hispanic Heritage Month, but throughout the year. So thank you for speaking on that. I do want to take a pause and give an opportunity to answer some questions from our live audience. So if anybody is streaming in from Facebook or LinkedIn, please feel free to share any questions that you may have with Maria in the chat. While you're gathering your questions, I have one final question for you, Maria, and that's, what are you hopeful for, or what's a positive story that gives you hope for this year?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I think that this year, especially in my involvement with Latinoforce on our global team, so we oversee all of the regional chapters I mentioned earlier, and I'm the global communications chair. It's been really incredible to be able to not only share the stories of our members in our community, but now that COVID is dying down or subsiding, we're able to do more in-person events. And I think that has given me so much hope for the future, because we no longer have to be restricted to hide behind a screen or do only virtual events. And yes, there are a lot of great events that happen virtually, like this one, but being able to have our members get back into their communities, volunteer, because Salesforce does have a very generous volunteer time off policy. We're able to go into schools again, and we weren't able to do that for almost 3 years. And that is influencing our future generation, right? We're going into elementary schools and we're being the role models for students that may not have someone in their lives that works in corporate America, or maybe they may not even know what that means. And so that I absolutely love being able to do that again. And I know that we can be the change that we want to see. We can, you can't be it if you can't see it, right? And so I remind myself that when we have executives at Salesforce, like Juan Perez or Lidiane Jones or Lori Castillo Martinez, our chief equality officer, and they're Latina or Hispanic, and seeing the impact that they're making on a company like Salesforce, that means one day I could do that. And that really, really excites me.
Mhm. Yeah, I totally agree. I think that representation is so important, and it's important at all levels, right? I mean, there are plenty of companies out there that like to boast about their diversity numbers and say, hey, we're a diverse employer. We have this many of this community and this many of that community. But it's totally different when you see that representation, not only at the entry level, but at the higher levels as well. So I totally resonate with that. And I do see that we have a question from Lisandra Jimenez, one of the program managers with the HACE team. She asked, can you describe your company's approach to ensure diverse Latinx voices are heard and represented via your communication strategy and other initiatives? And I'm sure, Maria, that you can speak to that since you're the communications chair. So I'll
Yes.
pass it over to you.
Thank you for that question. That's a really good one, actually. So at Salesforce, we have the Office of Equality, and the work that they do touches pretty much every part of the business. And so when it comes to communication for equality initiatives, or even for Latinoforce, they are right there with us, working with our internal communications teams to make sure that we are getting the same screen time and space in newsletters as maybe another program that isn't Latinx, right? And so it's so important that we have leaders, like I just mentioned, that are advocating for us, but also holding others accountable. And so with the Office of Equality, we've really been able to do that. And then also, I know recruitment marketing has done a really great job sharing that messaging out to our broader community that Salesforce is a destination for Latinx and Hispanic employees. And we do a lot of work internally in Latinoforce with our membership, since we're an employee resource group, to make that messaging known within the company. But when it comes to external messaging, we're all in it together. And it's really neat to be able to see it happen.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing, Maria. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to enter them in the chat. I don't think I see any others coming in. So in that case, again, just wanted to quickly plug our 2 events that we have coming up. If you're a job seeker, be sure to attend HACE's Government Recruitment Series today, 11:30 to 1. And again, Salesforce is going to be engaged in our National Executive Leadership Tour tomorrow. So if you want to learn a little bit more about Salesforce, what they've got going on internally, how they're elevating Latinx voices, please feel free to tune in. Maria, thank you again for taking the time out of your day to have this conversation with us. And thank you to everyone that's currently live streaming for also engaging in this conversation. Hope you all have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.